In the last lecture, we have discussed two important values that Indians must learn from the West. One, respect for the public good, and two, acknowledging the accomplishment of others. In this lecture, we are going to talk about the rest of the values that N.R. Narayan Murthy referred in his talk. The third value that we must learn from the West is accountability. That is what we know as responsibility. Regarding accountability, N.R. Narayan Murthy stresses the need to learn this value. Accountability or responsibility is one of the important values that we must learn from the Westerners. In the West, one is held responsible for what one does irrespective of his position. What is his position is not important in the West, whereas in India, his or her position is very important. In India, the more important you are, the less answerable you become. For instance, Narayan Murthy gives one example here. A senior politician once declared that he forgot to file his tax returns for 10 consecutive years and got away with it. Nobody has a daring to ask him why he has not filed a tax for 10 consecutive years. The cause is that he is a politician, and it is always considered that a politician is an important person here in India. It doesn't happen in the West. Every politician, though he is an important person in the country, he files the tax and it doesn't say he or she is an important person. In the context of the public sector, every individual is responsible, whether he may be a government officer or a politician or any other highly important person working on the high position in the government office. What Narayan Murthy wants to say here is that we have to learn the collective responsibility of society as the Western people did this in their country. So this accountability itself teaches us to accept the collective responsibility rather thinking I am the important person here in India. According to N.R. Narayan Murthy, important persons are more answerable in the Western continents, and he regrets that more important persons are less answerable here in India. This mentality of Indian people should be changed. and everyone should become more accountable, more responsible what they did here in India. The next important value that Indians must learn from the Western people is of dignity of labor. Work is always worshipped. Work is always important in the Western context. Everyone worshipped for work, whether he or she may be a old person or a young child. Whereas in India, work is not worshipped. This dignity of labor is an integral part of Western value system. In India, Narayan Murthy says, we revere only supposedly intellectual work, and the other work we always denigrates, we always refused, considering that this is not a work which is applicable to my position. He gives one instance to make his statement more, to give his to give clarification to his statement. He says that he has seen many engineers in India who came from completing education recently. They only want to do cutting edge research work and not work that is of relevance to business and the country. They want only excellent work, intellectual work, and they don't want to do work which is below of his position. For anything to be run successfully, everyone from the chief executive officer to the person who serves tea must discharge his or her duties in a responsible manner in the Western countries. Whereas in India, every engineer or chief executive officer wants to do the work as per his position. We therefore, as Narayan Murthy strongly stated, that change the mindset that reveres everyone who puts in honest work, no matter what it is. So, what should be our position? Narayan Murthy states that we have to honestly do work, whether it may be applicable to our position or not applicable to our position. If the highest if the highest people who is doing work on highest position says that this is not my work and this is the work of the laborers only, Narayan Murthy says that Western peoples learning, Western people's ideology, that Indians should learn in this regard. So he praises dignity of labor. I want to give one reference for your kind perusal, that you might hear the name of Booker T. Washington, who is a well-known educationist in America. He established Tuskegee Institute for the education of the colored people in America. He did a hard work from his birth up to the last page of his life. He has not denigrated any kind of work. He worked in a coal mine. He worked in a Tuskegee Institute, though he is in the position of a teacher, though he is in the position of the founder of the Tuskegee Institute. Nowhere he says that this is not my work. And he also teaches the same practice, the same lessons to his pupils in Tuskegee Institute. What is important to note here is that Booker T. Washington's contribution to the development of America proves fruitful, and his pupils have taken a very important lesson from his teacher that work is always worship. Dignity of labor that his pupils learn from his teacher. And here in the context of learning from the West, N.R. Narayan Murthy pointed out that we must learn this important value from the Western people, that we must appreciate, we must learn, we must praise that work is worship. The next value that Indians must learn from the Western people is of professionalism. In the West, as Narayan Murthy rightly stated, that people do not let personal relations intervene with their professional dealings. व्यवसायामध्ये आपले वैयक्तिक संबंध परकीय लोक कधीही आणत नाहीत. There are two different things. They makes these two things different. One, profession, and another, personal matters. वैयक्तिक संबंध आणि व्यवसाय या दोन्हीही गोष्टी एकमेकापासून परकीयांनी अलग केलेल्या आहेत. They do not hesitate to chastise a colleague for incompetence, even if he is a friend. मित्र हा मित्राच्या जागी, मित्राचा सन्मान, त्याचे संबंध मित्र म्हणून निश्चित केला जाईल. परंतु परकीय लोक व्यवसायामध्ये मित्रत्व कधीही आणत नाहीत. And this is a very good thing that we must learn from the foreigners. In India, we tend to view even work interactions from a personal perspective, and we always bring personal relationship in profession. We are also the most thin-skinned society in the world. We see insults where none is meant to this. We extend this lack of professionalism in our country to our sense of punctuality. We are not punctual. We always think that my friend will be insulted. My friend will dislike my behavior. But Narayan Murthy says that in profession, you don't take care of your friend's opinion. What is important is your profession should be developed. You have started a business, you have started entrepreneurship, then you look only for its progress, rather bringing personal relationship in the entrepreneurship. We do not respect the other person's time here in India. Time is always valuable. Time is always worshipped in a foreign country. But here in India, we do not respect the other person's time. जर एखाद्याला आपण वेळ दिला असेल तर तो वेळ आपण कधीही पाळत नाही. भारतीय वेळ भारतीय वेळ प्रत्येक वेळेस 1 घंट्यानी 2 घंट्यानी उशिरा चालू होते. अँड वी फॉरगेट टू व्हॅल्यू द टाइम. इंडियन टाइम स्टँडर्ड टाइम ऑलवेज रन्स लेट. कोणताही कार्यक्रम भारतामधला आपण पाहतोय अर्धा घंट्यानी 1 घंट्यानी उशिरा सुरू होतो. जर विचारलं ऑर्गनायझर्सना हे असं का, तर दे गिव्ह अ रिप्लाय that this is a standard Indian time and the deadlines are typically not met. So this is not appreciable move on the part of the Indians that N.R. Narayan Murthy clarifies in his lecture. What is important to note here is that profession and personal relations should make different. There should be a clear cut difference between the profession and personal relation. And number two, that we must respect other person's time, what the Western people did. We have no right to waste the time of other people. If you have given a time to somebody to meet at 5 o'clock, you should be ready at 5 o'clock to meet him and to discuss the matter with him instead of wasting his time. This is a very important value that we must learn from the Western continents. The sixth important value that N.R. Narayan Murthy wants to introduce to the students and the stakeholders of India is of intellectual independence. He says that from the time their children are very young, Western parents teach them to think for themselves. विशेषतः अमेरिकेमध्ये मुलं शिक्षण घेत असताना त्यांना सेल्फ रिलायन्स आत्मनिर्भर बनवलं जातं. एके बाजूला अमेरिकेमधील विद्यार्थी शिक्षण घेतात आणि दुसऱ्या बाजूला कोणत्या तरी फर्ममध्ये ते पैसे कमवण्याच्यासाठी काम करतात. स्वतःच्या कमाईवरती अमेरिकन विद्यार्थी शिक्षण घेतात. This is a very important value. This is a very important idea that Indian students must learn and Indian parents must teach them. Western parents teach them to think for themselves instead of thinking others. Hence, these children grow up to be strong, confident, self-reliant adults in future. However, Narayan Murthy says in India, we suffer from feudal thinking. And what is feudal thinking? Every parent in India says that this is my responsibility, that my child has to become good ideal citizen of the country. आणि म्हणून त्याला शिक्षण देणं, त्याला वाढविणं ही सगळी माझी जबाबदारी आहे. आणि एक प्रकारे त्याला आपण म्हणजे अर्ध पंगू बनविण्याचं काम करतोय की काय असाही प्रश्न यामधून निर्माण होतो. दॅट इज द रिझन वाय एन.आर. नारायण मूर्ती strongly point out that we Indians must learn this value of Americans and motivate our children, promote our children to stand on their own leg instead of giving him financial support. We should give him a moral support. This is the responsibility of every parents. But we always suffer from feudal thinking that this is my responsibility. 30, 35, 40 वर्षाचाही मुलगा झाला तरी त्याला त्याच्या स्वतःच्या पायावर उभा न राहू देता आपण त्याचं भरण पोषण पालन पोषण करतो, थिंकिंग दॅट दिस इज माय रेस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी. बट दिस Narayan labels as a feudal, Narayan Murthy labels as a feudal thinking. I have seen bright people who prefer to be told what to do by their bosses. We need to overcome this attitude if we are to succeed globally. This is a message that Narayan Murthy gives through his lecture. If India wants to become a powerful nation at global level, our children must stand on their own leg, and we parents must promote them to stand on their own leg in rather feudally thinking. So this intellectual independence on the part of the children, on the part of the Indian students is very important, and this value, this idea we must learn from the Western people. And the last value that N.R. Narayan Murthy introduces while talking about the values, while talking about the learning from the West value system, honoring contracts. And this is the last value, honoring contracts. What is honoring contracts? Narayan Murthy stresses that the Western value system teaches a respect for contractual obligation. The writer's experience in India in this regard is very unfortunate. We must honor to the contracts, respect for contractual obligations. The Western value system teaches respect for contractual obligations. However, in India, we consider our marriage oaths as sacred. However, we do not extend this to the public domain. For instance, I have recommended several students for national scholarships for higher studies in United States universities. Infosys, multinational companies, as Narayan Murthy is one of the founders of this multinational organization, has given several students for national scholarships for higher studies in United States. What is the responsibility of the students as one of the contractual obligations that has been undertaken by the students and the Infosys multinational company? What is important to note here is that as this multinational company has given financial assistance for seeking higher studies in United States, most of the students did not return to India after seeking education, and even though contractually they were obliged to spend only 5 years here after getting their degree. डिग्री घेतल्याच्या नंतर कॉन्ट्रॅक्ट अशा पद्धतीनं केला होता की परदेशामध्ये डिग्री घेतल्याच्या नंतर काही वर्ष तिथे नोकरी केल्यानंतर या इंडियन स्टुडंट्सनी परत आपल्या देशामध्ये जावं आणि आपलं नॉलेज आपल्या देशाच्यासाठी आपल्या देशाच्या विकासासाठी कामाला आणावं. बट द स्टुडंट्स हॅव फॉरगॉटन द कॉन्ट्रॅक्ट they did with the multinational company while taking the financial assistance from it. So Indians always forget the contractual obligations, and the highest default rate for student loans is among Indians, even though they land lucrative jobs after graduating. And what is unfortunate, as N.R. Narayan Murthy says, is that घेतलेले त्या कंपनीकडून फिनान्शियल असिस्टन्सचे पैसे सुद्धा ते परत करत नाहीत आणि भारताकडे ते डुंकूनही परत पाहत नाहीत. ज्या देशामध्ये हे मुलं जन्माला आले, ज्या देशामधून फिनान्शियल असिस्टन्स या मुलांनी हायर स्टडीजसाठी घेतलं, त्या देशाकडं आणि त्या देशाने दिलेल्या पैशाच्या पूर्ततेसाठी जर ही विचार करत नसतील तर आपण कोणत्या पद्धतीचं मूल्य या तरुणावरती बिंबवितो आहोत याचाही विचार करण्याची गरज असल्याचं मत N.R. नारायण मूर्ती यांनी व्यक्त केलेलं आहे. In fact, their behavior has made it difficult for other Indian students to get loans. आणि म्हणून अशी एका जनरेशन मधली मुलं या पद्धतीनं जर बिहेव करत असतील तर दुसऱ्या जनरेशन मधल्या मुलांना फिनान्शियल असिस्टन्स द्यावं की नाही अशा पद्धतीचा प्रश्न या मल्टीनॅशनल कंपनींना पडावा अशी परिस्थिती या विद्यार्थ्यांनी निर्माण केलेली आहे. वी हॅव टू चेंज दिस मेंटॅलिटी, वी हॅव टू चेंज दिस निगेटिव्ह ॲटिट्यूड, and we always must learn the contractual obligations. We should not break contractual dealings. We should always preach contractual obligations and contractual dealings because we are the responsible citizen of our country. We are all aware of our rights as citizens, but we sometimes forget the fundamental duties, and this is very unfortunate. Narayan Murthy regrets about such mentality of Indian students. We often fail to acknowledge the duty that accompanies every right. कारण ज्यावेळेस आपण अधिकाराचं बोलतो त्यावेळेस आपलं कर्तव्य आपण बाजूला ठेवू शकत नाही. राईट, फंडामेंटल राईट मूलभूत अधिकार and fundamental duties मूलभूत कर्तव्य goes hand in hand. It has to go hand in hand. दोन्ही एकमेकांमध्ये हातामध्ये हात घालून पुढे गेले पाहिजेत. We should keep in mind what former US President Dwight Eisenhower said, and he quote what Dwight Eisenhower said in the concluding part of his lecture. What Eisenhower said is very important to note here. A people that values its privileges above its principles soon loses both. जे लोक मूल्यांना महत्व देत नाहीत, मूल्य आणि तत्वांना महत्व देत नाहीत, ते त्या दोन्हीही मधून मुक्त झालेले असतात आणि अशा लोकांचं भविष्य फार उज्ज्वल असत नाही, अशा पद्धतीचं मत ड्वाईट आईन्सवावर यांनी केलेलं होतं. एन आर नारायण मूर्ती quote the observation of Dwight Eisenhower and come to the conclusion that let us work towards a society. He gives a very important message to the Indians that we must we would do unto others what we would have them do unto us and make our country great. So of this is the final message of N.R. Narayan Murthy, that we Indians make our country great. As Dr. Abdul Kalam has seen a dream of Vision 2020, to transform this vision into reality, Narayan Murthy again stated that we cannot make our country great if we think in a negative manner. So, in short, N.R. Narayan Murthy's speech titled Learning from the West talks about the importance, relevance of Western values in the contemporary Indian society. He defines a community as a unified multitude and then goes on to say that man can live individually but can survive only collectively. Being the social animal, man should keep relevance with society and always accept a responsibility individually as well as collectively. So, balance of interests is essential for communal harmony. It is important, as Narayan Murthy pointed out, to develop a value system where people will sacrifice personal good for the common good. Personal interest is secondary and common interest is the major. According to Murthy, a value system is the protocol for behavior which enhances trust, confidence, and commitment. बांधिलकी, समाजाप्रती आपली असलेली बांधिलकी is the important point that we must learn from the Westerners. He firmly believes that loyalty to family and loyalty to community are the pillars of social value system, and Indians must behave in this regard. The writer regrets that this familial attitude is not reflected in the attitude towards community. Many people in India always thinks of his family, but this attitude of family up here has not transformed into a community level, and this is a very unfortunate thing. Further, N.R. Narayan Murthy underlines the fundamental difference between the Westerners and Indians by giving some instances. According to him, people in the West have better attitude and beliefs as compared to Indians, and consequently the Western society become ideal society. We have Our society has not become ideal society because We have not taken into consideration the welfare of community. We have taken into consideration the welfare of our family only. Indians do not have a caring attitude towards society, and thus the quality of public life suffers from the hands of Indians. So, hence, Narayan Murthy says that it is an urgent need for Indians to care for public good. The society in the West is corruption free. Unfortunately, in India, bribery and apathy in solving the problems of the community has kept the society backward. So, if you want to lead the society forward in the Western society, we must keep free our society from corruption and bribery. According to Narayan Murthy, the reason for the deplorable condition of India in every field is that Indians believe that public issues belong to some foreign ruler, some another politician or political party or the cabinet minister or the prime minister. They will solve the problems. This is not the responsibility of mine one. Thus, Indians have lost the willpower to solve their problems. And who has to solve the problems is the basic question posed by N.R. Narayan Murthy. So, progressive society is respect for others who have more to learn from them. Indian leaders misguide the society into believing that other societies have nothing to offer us. But Narayan Murthy says that we must learn good things from the other society and we must keep away the bad things of other society. Indians want to progress. They have to change their attitude and pay an urgent need towards the good things, leaving bad things aloof. Further, Narayan Murthy stresses on another attribute which the Indians can learn from the Western people, that is the sense of responsibility, sense of accountability. Everyone is responsible, whatever may be his or her position. This attitude must improve among our personality. So, the word important, which is used by Narayan Murthy, should keep away, and important persons also accept the responsibility, whatever the things that they did wrong in their life. One of the important value that Narayan Murthy stresses in his lecture from my point of view is dignity of labor. Work is worship, which is the central value of the Western system. However, in India, the writer has seen many engineers, many politicians, many fresh students who recently completed education are not interested to do a low level work. They always want to cutting edge work, thinking that my education or my position is high. Therefore, Indians need to change their mindset and respect everyone who puts in honest work. Further, Narayan Murthy stresses the need to learn professionalism. In the West, People do not let their personal relations come in conflict with their professional dealings and always thinks profession is different from personal matters. Western parents, from the time their children are very young, teach them to think for themselves. On the contrary, our children grow up on the mercy of their parents. Resultantly, they become weak in thinking. They are not self reliant and confident. Indians suffer from feudal thinking. Even the bright people prefer to carry out the orders of their bosses. Hence, Indians need to overcome this attitude. If they want to succeed globally, they must they must worship work and teach their young students to understand the value of work. The last point that I want to bring in front of you, that is of the contractual obligation, honoring contract, respecting contracts. However, the writer's experience in India is very unfortunate. The writer had given very important recommendations to many students for US universities, but most of them did not return to India even though they have taken financial assistance from Indians. So they have forgotten their contractual dealings and spent 5 years in India after obtaining their degrees. So if everybody forgets their contractual obligation, their contractual dealings, and left India and remain in the foreign country, criticizing India and praising the value system of the Western people, N.R. Narayan Murthy poses a question how India will become a developed nation, how Indian society will become an ideal society. Towards the end, N.R. Narayan Murthy underscores the importance of obligations and duties vis-a-vis rights. He used a very simple message through this lecture, learning from the West that Indians must learn the good value system of the Westerners. And this learning from the West will definitely build Indian society an ideal one. So, this lecture of N.R. Narayan Murthy is eye opening for Indian people. We must learn these 7 important values from the Western people. Learning is not sufficient. We must apply these values into our life and change our negative attitude in order to make our society